Hi, everyone. I would like to welcome you to the Clinical Genetics Technology Information Session. My name is Julie Alley, and I am one of the marketing coordinators for the School of Health Sciences. I ask that you please be on mute for clear sound from the presenter, and would like to let you know that everyone will receive the slide deck and a link to the recording next week. Before we get started, the British Columbia Institute of Technology acknowledges that our campuses are located on the unceded traditional territories of the Coast Salish nations of the Squamish, Tsleil-Waututh, and Musqueam. This is our agenda for this evening, and at this time I'd like to introduce Farzad Kassam, the program head.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you so much for taking the time to be with us. My name is Farzad. I'm the program head and one of the instructors for the Clinical Genetics Technology program, and hope to provide some information for you this evening and answer any questions you may have. Right now, we have a poll question that's popping up. How many clinical genetics technology programs are there in Canada? To see if you guys can guess how many there are. Okay, so it looks like most of you got the right answer. There are 2 programs Canada-wide that teach clinical genetics technology. Our program here at BCIT, and there's a program in Toronto at the Misher Institute as well. Thanks for bringing that up, Julie. Next slide. So some of you may be asking, what is clinical genetics technology? I get this question a million times. When I was in industry for 20 years, also as an instructor at BCIT, in a nutshell, and this is the most oversimplified definition, I would say clinical genetics technology is the study of the human genome for healthcare. And we look at the genome as large as chromosomes, all the way down to a single nucleotide with sequencing. And so we're looking at essentially the human blueprint to detect any changes that relate to disease or anything that one acquires after being born in a situation such as cancer. A lot of these conditions are caused by changes in DNA. So we identify these changes not only to diagnose, but we also look at these changes to determine course of treatment in many situations. You may be asking yourself, is clinical genetics for you as a profession? So here are some points to consider, many of which are very important in the day-to-day in this profession. So are you someone that enjoys working with a group of people and at the same time in situations working independently? Are you detail-oriented with good judgment? Are you interested in troubleshooting and problem solving? And another thing I'm going to add to that list is, are you interested in working on new projects? This field evolves quite rapidly, especially in recent years. And so a lot of technologists these days are being asked to help develop new testing assays and be involved in those projects. So if that's something that interests you, then you're at the right place. And of course, the most important thing to ask yourself is if you have a Bachelor of Science degree with a life science focus. As you can see, our program is quite short. Total duration is 13.5 months. A big reason why we expect our candidates to have a bachelor degree, having the theoretical knowledge coming in, because we, as instructors, just don't have the time to go through all the theory of molecular biology and genetics. So we expect our students to have that information coming into the program. And our focus is to provide you lectures and labs with an applied approach. So we want to take the knowledge that you have and have you learn skills that are currently being applied in the real world at various laboratories and private and public hospital situations. So along with spending 6 months on campus for 2 terms, you will also have a 7-month clinical practicum where you'll be placed at various clinical affiliated sites. Most of them are at hospitals, some are at private labs. The overall experience that you will be receiving is second to none. So a lot of our instructors are part-time, therefore they are also currently working in the field. So we have current experience teaching at BCIT. And of course, when you go to your clinical practicum, you will be immersed with many technologists with various years of experience to help guide you along your education. The ultimate goal, once you finish the program, is to be certified to work in clinical genetics in Canada. And the certification is mandated by CSMLS. Our curriculum and training is all designed to prepare you for the entry-level exam for clinical genetics. And once you are certified, you have the ability to work as a medical laboratory technologist in clinical genetics in many public hospital and private labs throughout Canada. And in some cases, you can seek work in the United States. And recently, the industry did receive a pretty sizable raise. So your initial yearly income will start at about 74,000, and that can increase up to 93,000. These figures are for British Columbia, of course. They're quite comparable throughout Canada. In some provinces, they may be even a bit higher. This is Phil. Phil was one of our students from, I believe, 6 years ago. An exceptional student, very, very outgoing, very intelligent, had an amazing experience with us at BCIT and took advantage of all the opportunities that were given to him. And he's currently employed in a relevant field. He's actually moved up from a technologist to a supervisory role, as he's highly motivated. So it's a good example of someone that came to our program, further refined his skills, was able to seek employment in the industry right after finishing the program, and not only working as a technologist, but able to move up to a supervisory role in 6 years. So if you're thinking about applying to our program, here's sort of the pathway that you're going to need to kind of go through. So making sure that you're reviewing all the entrance requirements on our website and being cognizant of the application dates. So if you're interested in applying for our September 2024 intake, our application deadline is April 3rd. So you want to make sure that you have all your necessary documents for admissions converted to PDF, and you can apply online at bcit.ca/apply. So here's sort of the timeline for our program in terms of application processing and when you'd be starting. And below that, you can see some of the qualities that we look for successful applicants. Our program is quite competitive, and we typically have an average of 50 to 70 applicants per year, and we have 9 seats available for each intake. So we're looking at education, of course, and experience, but we're also looking at these qualities as well that you can see: the communication skills, the interest in the work, attention to detail, and the teamwork and people skills, and strong decision-making and problem-solving skills, all very important tools to be able to work in this profession. So, and here are some of the entrance requirements outside of the soft skills that we look for. So if you have a Bachelor of Science, you want to be aware of the coursework that we're looking for this program. As I mentioned earlier, we don't have a lot of time to go over the theory for a lot of these subjects. So we hope that you have this theoretical background in these areas before coming into our program. You're expected to have 3 letters of reference, and one of the other tools we use for assessment is called Casper, which some of you may or may not be familiar with, but it is a computer-based assessment for sampling personal characteristics and is an essential requirement for applying to our program. So it's a means for us to look at some of those soft skills we saw in the previous slide. Take a note of all the application steps on the left. And once you have completed those, you'll see the steps that happen after you apply. So the school will review your application and make sure that you have all of the requirements. And then myself and the faculty will be reviewing qualified applicants and determining who will be awarded a seat into our program. And once we've decided on our 9 candidates, then I will be reaching out and calling our successful candidates.
Thank you. Now, moving from the academics, I would like to let you know BCIT is committed to supporting students in a holistic sense. We want you to succeed not only in your academics, but also outside of school. Some of the student services are available to you as a prospective student, and others will be available to you once you become an enrolled student. Here are some of the important student supports that I'd like to mention. If you are Indigenous, BCIT's Indigenous Initiatives Department is there for you to ensure a smooth transition into your first year. They offer peer-to-peer mentorship, a welcoming gathering place, and provide clarification on Indigenous funding. BCIT's awards, scholarships, and bursaries are listed on our Financial Aid and Awards webpage. I would like to mention that we have a President's Entrance Award. Selection is based not only on academic achievement, but also on volunteer and community service. Please contact Financial Aid directly for more information. BCIT's Student Health Services is a health clinic located at the Burnaby campus. They provide medical care for our current students year-round. We also have a counseling and student development department available to help you enhance your educational performance and maximize your success as a student. Finally, our Recreational Services Department promotes and encourages and enables the practice of physical well-being. We consider recreation an integral part of the campus life and welcome all students to enjoy our rock climbing wall, our squash courts, our showers, and our fully functioning gym. If you have any questions after today, I encourage you to connect with Program Advising. They are fantastic and super knowledgeable. They are available via telephone, emails, and Zoom. Go to their webpage, bcit.ca/advising, for up-to-date contact information and service hours. I'd like to mention if your inquiry is time sensitive, please call for assistance. Here we have our social media handles. We encourage you to follow us on Facebook, Twitter, or X, Instagram, YouTube, LinkedIn, and if you wanted to come spend a day with one of our programs, learn about other sessions, take a tour, make an appointment with advising. These are all the links. At this time, before we open it up to our Q&A, just in case anybody has to go because we have multiple sessions running, I'd like to introduce Jennifer Elliott, our Associate Dean, Jessica Armstrong, our Business Development Manager, Meninder Desi, our Program Advisor, Farzad, you all know because he did the presentation, and myself, Julie Alley. So we're all here and available to answer any questions you might have. So please raise your hand and we can call your name out, or you could post it in the chat. Meninder, is there any unanswered questions in the chat?
None that have been unanswered, but maybe I'll just clarify that we do need official transcripts. And so when you're getting your application prepared, please do keep in mind the time period that it takes maybe to get official transcripts from your school. If your school can issue you an electronic transcript, that would be what would be ideal. You'd want to request an electronic transcript. And if that's not possible, then a hard copy sent to you, which you would need to then scan into a PDF and upload, as was mentioned. And there is further information on our website regarding that.
Thank you, Meninder. We have a question in the chat. Would a certificate in genomics and bioinformatics be an asset to being accepted into the program?
Absolutely. If that's in addition to an undergraduate degree, that is a strong asset to have as an applicant. Many of our testing involves the use of database programs to process genetic information. So any computer background on top of having the undergrad degree in the relevant disciplines is a huge plus for sure.
Farzad, a question we often get from prospective students is regarding the reference letter. Is there anything additional you'd like to provide our attendees today regarding that?
With respect to the reference letters?
Mm-hmm. What type do you recommend? Is there an ideal reference letter?
Yeah, I think students or prospective applicants tend to lean on professors because most of their time is spent at university. They don't really have much in the way of work experience, but I do think that work experience is very important aspect when endeavoring anything in life, and it doesn't necessarily have to be relevant work experience, like not necessarily working in a lab. Any type of customer service work that you do that can pinpoint some of your interpersonal skills and ability to work in a team environment. Any transferable skills from part-time jobs is just as important as any lab experience that you might have. So we ask for 3. They don't all have to be from university professors. If you have a part-time job at Starbucks, I would recommend getting a reference letter from your manager at Starbucks. So
Thank you, Farzad. Another question, are we going to have mini interviews as previous years?
that's a very good question. So before this thing called COVID, we used to have what's called a multiple mini interview, which was the gold standard, I think, for most of the programs, if not all the programs in School of Health Science. And since COVID, we had to scrap that process. We haven't integrated it back into our process yet. It's something that we're considering for the future, but for now, we're just going to stick to what we've been doing. We've seemed to have a lot of success in finding suitable candidates for the program in the last few years using this process. So we're just going to stick with this process for now and see how it goes.
Thank you. We have a question from Lewis. Is the program available to those who have a work permit status?
Work permit. So that means you're not a permanent resident in BC, or ultimately we are mandated by the Ministry of Health for British Columbia. So the 9 seats that we have available, they are ideally for candidates who are residents of British Columbia. So those are the candidates that are preferred initially.
Regarding the English language proficiency, if my upcoming IELTS test date is beyond the application deadline, would it be possible to use expired but qualified IELTS academic module results to work through the application first?
I think I can take this question. No, I'm sorry, Harry, that's not possible. You need to have a valid IELTS results by the application deadline date. I'm sorry, that won't work. There is a particular test we have heard of from students that the results are available fairly quickly once you've written the exam, and that would be Duolingo. So I'm going to put the options for meeting our English requirement in the link, or in the chat, sorry, and you can view the link and look at the different options available, but you do need to get that done by the application deadline date.
Thanks, Maninder. How long does it take to announce the results after the admission deadline?
So the results are announced in June. So our cutoff is April 3rd, and I make the calls in I'd say like the second week of June, somewhere around there.
You're welcome, AJ. Oh, from Anna. Is it possible to receive feedback on a previous application?
100%, Anna. If you go to our website, you should see my email address. Feel free to reach out to me and we can discuss your application from a previous year a little bit further. I have access to some of the documents from previous applications.
Would we be able to work in the pharmacogenetics field with our clinical genetics technology certificate?
It's a very good question. It's actually not necessary per se to work in pharmaco I can't really say it, but in that profession with our credentials, but it definitely is an asset. There is a lot of correlation with what's going on in that field and the skills you learn in our program. But as far as I know, it's not a requirement for that industry. So you're welcome.
Fantastic. Thank you, Farzad. I'll leave it open for another moment. If there's any other questions, please raise your hand or just post it in the chat. Okay, well then with that, I would like to put up the email for Farzad, their clinical genetics Instagram account, and our email for program advising.
There's another good question here. The April 9th Casper date is behind the April 3rd deadline. Is that test date available for September? The answer is yes. That is a predetermined Casper test date that we have set up with Casper. It would apply for the September 2024 intake. So what that means is you would have to have all the other requirements in by April 3rd, and we would just the Casper results would be pending. You're welcome.
With a master's degree in biotechnology, a bachelor's degree in cell biology, and relevant work experience, do I stand a chance?
For sure, it's all relevant, and I will say in recent years it's become more and more competitive. So having a master's degree is a huge plus.
Oh, we have more questions. From Anna, what proportion of applicants have a master's?
That would vary from year to year. I don't think our students from this year, I don't think anyone had a master's degree from my understanding, but typically I would expect to see at least one or two individuals with a master's degree every couple of years, depending. But yeah, that's probably a fair ratio. So maybe about one candidate for every 1 to 2 years.
Thank you. Can we take the Casper test again if we are not happy with the performance?
Oh, that's a good question.
I can answer that one first. Then,
Thank you.
no, the Casper exam can only be written once in an application cycle. So if you were not happy with the performance, you would have to wait to write the exam again and then reapply for the next intake. That is a Casper requirement. They won't allow applicants to take the exam more than once.
Thank you, Maninder. All right, everyone. A reminder that you will receive the slide deck and a link to the recording in your email next week. I'd like to thank everybody for taking their time out to attend this session and listen in with us. Have a great night, everyone.
Yeah, and feel free to reach out to me offline if you have any more questions. Thank you for joining us this evening.